Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I just read Dominion by Darius Hinks, and while there's a pretty cool story hidden underneath, this book, like many others, suffers a bit from being a tie-in novel, but more on that later. The book starts off in Excelsis, which is the most important city in Gur. For those unfamiliar with Age of Sigmar, Gur is the realm of beasts, a place filled with creatures and monsters of every kind that only have one thing in common, and that is that they want to eat you. So in many ways, it's a bit like Australia, actually. On top of this, it's also the place of operations for the recently freed god of destruction, Kragnose, and ever since the goddess of life created a reverse necroquake, the monsters of Gur have been increasingly wild. Altogether, it's not a very good place to be at the moment. Sadly for our main character, a good-for-nothing guy called Nixar, he is an inhabitant of the aforementioned Excelsis. But even worse is that he accidentally gets his sister turned into a religious prophet, and even worse is that she declares that the city must go on a crusade. She saw this in a vision that she got because she accidentally touched a magical rock that Nixar owned, partially because he is worried about the fate of his sister, and partially because there are a lot of potential spoils to be claimed during a crusade. Nixar joins the crusade into the Gurian wildlands. Will Nixar manage to con his way into riches? And what will happen to his sister? That is the story of this novel. Oh yeah, and there's also some Stormcast and Cruel Boys stuff going on, because like I said, tie-in novel for the Dominion box set. Yeah, let's start off with that actually, because in my opinion the biggest downside of this novel is the way it handles Stormcast Eternals. It starts off pretty promising as we hear a lot about the dreaded White Angels, also known as the Knights Excelsior. These zealots are almost more dreaded than the enemies they were sent to fight, and are basically the Age of Sigmar version of the World Eaters. This novel also spends quite some time talking about them and hyping them up, but then completely forgets about them and we only see a glimpse of them at the end of the book. The same holds true for Indrasta, who is a Stormcast saint of sorts. She too gets mentioned a lot, but never actually shows up. The only Stormcast that we do get to see are your basic bitch blue, gold and ultramarines. But that is actually not my biggest gripe with him. Sure, I would have preferred to read about a more interesting storm host, but using the standard guys would have been fine. Now the problem here is that you can basically remove all of the Stormcast from the book and very little would change. Half the time the Stormcast just set off to do their own thing, which means they get random action scenes that are completely unrelated to our main characters. Not to mention that while we get a little bit of interesting lore exploration of the Stormcast, the majority of the time they are just shouting "Storm Strike" while running at the enemies like a bunch of Naruto weebs. Altogether, the book really could have done without wasting so many pages on these boring cringe marines, but with that out of the way, let's look at all the cool things this book did do well. So first of all, the main cast of free guilders, quirky citizens and dwarves was really cool. Nixar is a bit of an idiot, but he has his heart at the right place, and seeing him trying to con his way to victory was really funny. Odessa is very weird and quite possibly insane, yet she always manages to be extremely resourceful. Exhaust, your typical no-nonsense soldier lady, who makes an excellent partner in crime for Nixar, as he can really use a voice of reason from time to time. The Dwarven Overlord is a grumpy old guy who wants to make his final mark before he retires, and then finally Segura, Nixar's sister, may seem a bit boring at first, but she'll become much more interesting as the story progresses. All of these characters play with each other very well, and they add a lot of human perspectives to the crusade, which is actually another thing I really liked about the novel. We are following a crusade, but instead of only reading about the glorious Sigmarines yelling, "Only the faithful," while bashing in some heretics, we instead get to see how all the mortals react to such a scenario. We learn that many crusaders only sign up to evade prosecution, and how all hell breaks loose the moment a crusade is announced. Seriously, the night before a crusade is a bit like the movie The Purge, as all your crimes will be forgotten after you return from a crusade. We also get to see how the mortals react to all the insanity of the realm around them. Sure, for the Stormcast it's easy to be unafraid of all the murderous tentacle monsters or the meter-long carnivorous insect fish. I mean, they wear armor that is basically impenetrable, and even if they die, they can just respawn. This of course is a luxury the mortals don't have, so it was pretty interesting to see them freak out over all the weird shit that happens around them. The plot itself was pretty good as well. The premise of Nixar setting off to save his sister while also hoping to secure himself some nice loot was already quite nice, but the frequent plot twists and the fact that almost every character has their own problems or ulterior motives added a lot of extra depth to the story. Outside of the Stormcast chapters, I was captivated all the way throughout the novel. And finally, I would like to highlight the world building. Hinks does an excellent job at showcasing the complete insanity that is the realm of Gur. Whether it is massive land krakens, flesh-eating hummingbirds, or rivers of hungry reptilian fish insects, Gur truly is a place of madness and hunger in this book. On top of this, the portrayal of the Cruel Boys was pretty cool as well, although I would have liked to see a bit more of them, as they are only present in like the last quarter of the book. Altogether, I give this book a solid 4 to 5 Knights Excelsior. Dominion is a cool adventure novel with interesting characters, surprising plot twists, and some excellent Age of Sigmar world building. The Stormcast really feel like a wasted potential, but it's not as if they ruined the novel. This is a great novel for anyone who wants to learn some more about the realm of beasts, and could also work as quite a decent first entry into the world of Age of Sigmar. Anyway, that's all I got for you today.
If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and click ringing the bell to appease the Great Horned Rat. For more lore content, please check my main channel and leave any book recommendations in the comments down below. I gotta get back to reading the next book.